Well, at some point, someone says to Gilgamesh, man, your gods really are mean to you. Did you ever figure out why your gods were so mad at you? And Gilgamesh says, well, it took us some time, but we finally figured it out. We finally figured out why our gods were so mad at us. And in fact, I've given you all the pieces of information you need to figure out why the gods were so mad at the Sumerians. Remember, according to the story these people tell about themselves, they didn't always live in the flatlands of Sumer, but they used to live up in the mountains to the north of Mesopotamia. The gods would live on top of the mountains, the people would live down in the valleys. But then somebody got the idea for irrigation and civilization, and they moved down to the very flat land of Sumer. Well, of course, their gods had to move with them, and there's no mountains for them to live on. Now, come on, if you were a Sumerian god, you'd be ticked off too. Your people move off and drag you to some place there's no mountains for you to live on, well, you'd be ticked off too. And Gilgamesh says, once we figured out what the problem was, then we saw what the solution was. And if you turn in your textbooks to page 7 in your textbooks, you've got several photographs there of the solution. A type of structure called a ziggurat. At the top of that page, on page 7, you have a photograph, figure 2.9, of a ziggurat. This is one of the more famous ziggurats in Sumer. It's the ziggurat of the city of Ur. Ur is going to show up in our story a little bit later. You don't need to worry about that word right now. It'll show up later. And you don't have to look at it very long to figure out what a ziggurat is. Well, it's an artificial mountain. An artificial mountain for the gods to live on top of. There in your textbook, figure 2.10, you have an artist's reconstruction of the ziggurat at Ur. And I'm not a big fan of that artist's reconstruction, but hey, it was free. It saved you some money, so I know it's cheesy looking, but hey, it was free. And just look at it. Use your imagination. We're not being terribly technical here. You see how the ziggurat works. You have some steps going up to carry up sacrifices and for choirs to go up and sing bedtime songs to the gods. And there's a spirit house up on top for the god to live in and that kind of thing. Building up a brick structure, filling it up with dirt, and really constructing an artificial mountain for the gods to live on top of. Ziggurats are common tourist attractions in Iraq today. I mean, there's not much else to go and see. And so oftentimes you'll see veterans of Iraq with photographs of themselves or their unit on the day they visited one of the ziggurats. I believe this is the ziggurat at Ur, the one that's in your textbook photograph, and also the photograph that I just showed you a minute ago. It's not at all uncommon to see. A number of units were bussed in to see the ziggurats because, well, like I said, not much else to do, really. So it's not at all uncommon. But apparently the Sumerians never built enough of these things because bad stuff still kept happening to them. The gods were never happy. Well, that's almost like a quick snapshot of Sumer. Just a few minutes just to talk about ancient Sumer, but he gives us some vocabulary and some themes that we're going to be talking about a little bit later.